Hello, my name is TINKA DELAKORDA KAWASHIMA, and I'm a lecturer at Hiroshima University. Together with colleagues coming from different disciplines, we are in charge of a special globally minded teacher training program, which is also part of the global education course. And our job here at Hiroshima University is thus to provide knowledge and opportunities for intercultural exchange and understanding to teachers who will work in an increasingly multicultural environment. Me being a sociologist of religion by profession, I have done fieldwork research on religious beliefs and practices of ordinary people in Japanese society, and have had a particular interest in Japan's hidden Christian communities. So I want to focus this lecture on community and religion as two overlooked and often denied topics in education. Drawing on different fieldwork experience, I will show that a deeper understanding of these two phenomena, that is religion and community, can help us understand people who are different from us. To say a few words about me, my background, I was born in Slovenia, and I came in touch with Asian and African studies, Japanese studies and Chinese studies at University of Ljubljana in Slovenia, at Asian and African Studies department. I continued my studies in sociology at the same university, and later on at University of Tsukuba in Japan, in the field of religious studies. I have had experience teaching since the graduation of the program at Asian and African Studies here, as I worked as assistant professor there, and later on in Japan at Yamaguchi Prefectural University, and since 2018 at Hiroshima University at Graduate School of Humanities and Social Sciences. So I understand our work here as that is in a global education teacher training program as part of peace education. In the very recent conference on Japanese ethics education at Hiroshima University, I had the opportunity to get more knowledge about the situation of peace education in schools in Japan. And reports in general were concluding that as the peace education itself was very successful in bringing about and creating anti-war sentiments, but it hasn't been as equally successful in bringing about action, social action, and engagement toward peace and peaceful society. So peace education in Japan, and in particularly in schools, in the process of learning itself, I believe should move from knowledge of, which is about content of war and of peace building, and move forward to knowledge for, which is about action. And but the action for this kind of action, you need skills, but also you need to get the skills by action, by engaging in activities that help you move things forward. So in this doing, so we're doing things together for a shared purpose, as a quote from Professor Adam Seligman's book on living with difference. This process is especially well explained. However, as I say, there is no other way but actually doing and learning the skills, engaging with different, vulnerable and disadvantaged people in the society. There are many challenges, even in Hiroshima, the messenger of peace, problems that concern victims of atomic bomb, hibakusha, ethnic minorities, Danir Hojin, and others, other minorities, Korean minorities, and so on, who haven't received enough attention yet. As I will explain in the following, there is also increase in foreigners in Hiroshima, especially in Higashi Hiroshima, which is housing Hiroshima University. So my question will be throughout this lecture how to prepare teachers to teach in diverse environment. So first, about the numbers of international students that are rising, that is relevant to our topic here because students attending public schools in need of Japanese language instructions, let me first explain a little bit about the general situation in Japan, are increasing and have increased already 2 years more. This is from 2016 survey to almost 45,000. And in 10 years, 25% increased in numbers of immigrant children and youth in Japan. Also to the very recent Japan's policy of accepting foreign workers, there is increase in not only workers, but also not only researchers. We focus on Higashi Hiroshima City, where we have Hiroshima University. Not only foreigners, workers, and but also researchers, international students, and so on, now come already from 90 countries. And that means that public elementary and high schools in the city and in the prefecture now have 30 to 7 international students. And these are schools with no experience with international students in the past. So teachers are facing very serious difficulties in facing international students. The two most severe problems are the shortage of teachers trained in Japanese language instruction and absence of teacher training for diversity. So as Tokunaga, Professor Tokunaga noticed in the service, multicultural education in Japan is often associated with education for newcomer students, which means that the education is not concerning the multicultural education is not focused on intercultural understanding that would bring Japanese students and international students to a common understanding, but rather it is even more enforcing the difference between us and them. So in as a one step or first step toward raising a kind of sensitivity to difference among us, I conducted a religious awareness experiment, which included 144 students who will in the future become teachers. I conducted this so to say, religious awareness experiment in a dialogical manner. That means that there were 3 steps to take. First, I prepared a questionnaire with questions about religious awareness, and students answered the questions by themselves. Later, they compared their views with their peers' views, and finally, they wrote comments on what they found in the process. So the questions that I asked in the questionnaire were focused on beliefs in the existence of gods, kami, Buddha, ancestor spirits, heaven, and also practices like visiting graves and carrying a talisman. Finally, there were also questions about their image of Shinto, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, new religious movements, and so on. As students themselves conducted these interviews in groups with their peers, they became aware of differences among each other. Students realized through dialogue and discussion that, for example, they would write they had different beliefs than others in the group, or they would be surprised that their friend was religious. Or, for example, they realize that they don't know much about their religious tradition or beliefs. Or, for example, that they care about many supernatural things in their everyday life. So these were the things that they would also say never really discussed about, not in their family or with their friends. So it was kind of a topic that they didn't question until now. So what this has to do with community is an important question. Students notice that their differences in religious awareness come from different family backgrounds, different regions they lived in, or age difference, and so on. And they acknowledge that. But they didn't, until now, put much importance or significance on these differences. But these differences have very important meaning, I think, because they speak about our origins, family, ancestors, our village, town, school, friends. So these are differences that come from different communities of belonging. But what happened with this sense of belonging to community? And why do we neglect our differences? Why we prefer to hide them and emphasize our common features? So today we don't have time to look at the reasons behind that and the nation-state building and homogenization of identity and so on. To emphasize, it is important to like your country and your nation, but we are not the same, even within the same nation. So why we can't change these values and beliefs that are beneath and that we don't want to really expose? What is the reason for that? Is it our faith, or is it our community, or both? So let me, in the following, show you 2 examples from my research fieldwork that I conducted in Japan. And because I would like to show you how looking into these particular cases and studying this can help us understand why are these things such as faith, community important. So first is the imagined community, the so-called imagined community in Sugamo in Tokyo. And the other case study is the hidden Christian community. as I said, I forgot to mention that these two, as you maybe don't notice at first, these both cases, both communities are related to religion, or kind of centered around it, but not. Okay. So, so I would like to first get into to briefly introduce what does the approach to religion and community looks like in science. So we have two leading scientific approaches to religion, phenomenological and sociological or anthropological. And there is a big difference between the two, although you can also find combined approaches. So the first approach has a, let's say, historical background in Western universities where religion was first taught. And they classified religion according to geographical areas, so as world religions, like Hinduism, Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam. And that they all share this specific characteristic phenomena, which are personalities, events, beliefs, practices, and rituals, and also text scriptures. So problem with this approach is already that these categories give a kind of impression that that these religions are some fixed structures, and that they that they are separated between each other, that like they would be different and not related. And also another problem is that we construct these technical categories and definitions of what, let's say, religion means, but then the meanings on the ground for people can have very different meanings. So what Hindu believes, or what a Christian believes, or what does the Japanese person believe? These are very, we will notice that there are very, there is no one answer to that. Of course, there is as much as there are people in the world. So I'm more in favor of empirical research approach to religions and people's understanding of them. Compared to some Western, let's say, European and North American countries, Japan is said to have religious diversity, which, of course, which here with this I mean that there are several religions existing in the same society, but a little differently from a case of America, where people would usually choose one among all religions that are there. In Japan, people choose the religions in an eclectic way, so that they turn to different religions on different occasions. For example, most of people, more than almost 90%, visit family graves in time of Obon, and 65% go to a New Year's Eve visit to shrine. Also, many people buy talisman, omamori, or visit shrines or temples on different occasions. Here I don't see it listed, but Japanese people also like getting married in Christian church. So it is very complex to find what is the structure and how people cherish beliefs and to different religions in Japan. In my experiential learning, so doing field work, I focused on, among other significant places, sacred sites, and so on. I will mention here Togenuki Jizo in Sugamo in Tokyo, pilgrimage in Medjugorje, Bosnia and Herzegovina, in former Yugoslavia, and Kakure Krishtan in Hirado and Ikitsuki in Nagasaki. And also, very recently, I had the opportunity to visit traditional communities in Uganda and Kenya, which was where I get better insights in how living traditional communities are changing under the pressure of modernization, urbanization, and so on. Based on my research, I published a monograph which concerns the definition of religion in Japan, and especially the change of traditional religiosity in the modernization process. So concerning the decline of community, urbanization, religion, state separation, and so on. And I looked at the particular relationship between religion and consumerism in that process. So this question of change of traditional religion and religiosity throughout the modernization process is a topic that concerns with which the beginners of sociology of religion were concerned, because they questioned what will happen with religion when this traditional community falls apart with urbanization, industrialization, and so on. And when people move from villages to cities, when they leave their families and relatives and so on. So sociology of religion is a discipline in which there is a division where it's very important to see if you study about religion, to see whether a researcher is taking substantive definition or approach to religion, or functional approach to religion. So the difference is, to use Maguire's words, that in substantive definition we ask what religion is, while in the functionalist definition and approach to religion we ask what religion does. So the first approach is about the substance of religion, which as the name says, the substantive definition. So the substance of religion is supposed to be belief in a supernatural, belief in God, belief in some sacred or supernatural beings, and experience of the sacred. So we will see in case of the hidden Christian communities, this is an approach that was often used. However, there is another approach where we ask about the subject of religion, that is human beings and society. So what role, what function religion has for people, and what function it has for solving their problems, their ultimate concerns, and also about everyday problems of socialization and making sense of life, and so on. So this functionalist approach was developed by Emile Durkheim in beginning of 20th century, and it was based on totemism in Aboriginal communities in Central Australian clan society. So in Australia, all clans had their own totem, and the society the clan members worshipped the totem. The totem could be a plant or a animal, but it had really important and sacred meaning for the community, for the clan, because it was related to the history of creation of their clan and of the people of the clan. And it was also, and what Durkheim noticed, it was also meant to mark this clan from another. So in this case, Durkheim says, it becomes clear that religion is what performs the function of religion, meaning that this sacred, something like totem in this case, could have, because it had function to connecting people and integrating them in as a group, as a community. It also has, so it meant that all practices, rituals, the yearly calendar for all these practices centered on the totem were meant to bring people together and restrain each person who is prone to egoism through a collective ritual and motivating him or her to act by the needs of society. So what happens in modern societies is that this kind of communities just mentioned and cohesion within such community becomes lost. And so this approach, this functionalist approach to religion was criticized because in the modern society this kind of communities dissolve. And religion became rather, and religion, social role of religion declined, according to some researchers. And it was said that what happened was that religion moves toward individual and becoming invisible. So as this ties that connected people in community dissolve and individuals look for their new communities and so on, they also face or they act according to their needs to find religions that will quickly satisfy their needs, as from the spiritual marketplace, to use this word. So, but with breaking ties, on the other hand, some researchers found, and it was coming clear in societies, the personal identity and the search and crisis of personal identity become more severe and may even promote sacralization of new communities and such community identities, values, and norms. So the search for identity and new communities become, on the contrary, very important. Here I want to show you one example that where this really expresses itself. I really enjoy doing field work at this location in a central Tokyo, which is called Grandma's Harajuku, and or Obachan no Harajuku in Japanese. So the name of the place, which is in Sugamo, also known as Sugamo, is in central Tokyo, and it is really centered around the Koganji temple in Sugamo, and on the deity, particular Jizo bodhisattva called Togenuki, which is known for healing powers. So this is a religious, let's say, attraction of the temple, although this is this is a kind of worship that is not directly related to Togenuki Jizo, but that's another story. So, but however, this what is so interesting here is that people who gather here are mostly elderly people, not only women but also men, and that they, especially on the sacred days, which such as Ennichi of Togenuki Jizo. Ennichi is like a day of the saint day in Christian tradition. And why so many people gather is not only that deity brings more blessings on their special days, which is known from tradition, and at the same time, what attracts is the shops that are shoppers set on these specific days. So on both sides, you can see on Togenuki Jizo Street, you can see the stalls. So that's kind of a picture that you can see at different sacred sites around the world, and also and especially pilgrimage sites and so on. But what is very interesting here is also that the fact that products that have been being sold at Togenuki Jizo Street have special, very special symbolic religious symbols of the Togenuki Jizo. And products that are sold also are said to have healing power. So these walking sticks here and osugatayaki are sold as such. This is another attraction that is also important part of shopping. So what to get to the meaning of this gathering and so on, I spent some time interviewing people visiting this location, and it was interesting that people come as individuals to this location, and but what I found is that they share similar concerns about health and loneliness and dying, but that coming to a location makes them lively and healthy. So they imagine, in a way, they imagine themselves as part of a bigger age group, and sharing same concerns and doing moral acts, or let's say acts of belonging to that imagined group, to that imagined community, by worshipping deity that is in the center of their concerns, and shopping products that are answer to their needs. That's quite the jump from there to the history. So with the case that I mentioned, I don't have more time to say more about it, but it shows a kind of relationship to communities which are not fixed and can be imagined in contemporary society in a city like Tokyo. But if we look, if we dig deeper in history and look at traditional communities, and especially the hidden Christian communities in Nagasaki, where I spent most time researching, I would say that we can find even more clues to how what religion means to community and what community means to their members. I will introduce briefly who the hidden Christians are in Japan, and what can we learn from them about community integration. Also, I will talk about how historically we can explore their interreligious relationship and the issues of harmony and discrimination. So Japan's hidden Christians are living communities performing unique religious practices in secret since the persecution of Christianity in the Tokugawa period. So now it's already more than 400 years since some communities, especially the Kakure Christian communities in Ikitsuki and Hirado and other places, still perform practices as they did from here when persecution of Christianity, prohibition of Christianity started. So after arrival of Christianity, and after some time when Christianity spread in Japan, very severe prohibitions started, and what happened was that many Christians, the first missionaries were expelled from the country, and Japanese Christians stayed, had few options how to proceed. So I would like to touch a little bit on these issues, how they decided whether to go underground, and this is we call Senpuku Christian, or apostatize and go to a different, also stop performing Christian practices, or not to apostatize and do and what happens then is the martyrdom. So I would like to look at how what can we learn from their experience. The largest population of the Kakure Christian has lived in farming and fishing villages in Nagasaki and Kumamoto prefectures, and as we know from history, they opened up to public. They disclosed themselves to public in the famous Ora Church in Nagasaki, and what was very significant about this was that thousands of Christians didn't do so, didn't return to, didn't disclose themselves, or they didn't turn back to Catholic Church. They didn't become Catholics. So you can see here that some become Catholics and some continue their activities, their underground activities as they received them from their ancestors as Kakure Christian. So we use all these different terms to describe different communities in different times, but these are people that have same ancestors. So we speak about descendants of, so the living communities now are descendants of Senpuku Christian and so on, and Christians who went underground, who didn't decide to die. So these are some images that we have about times of persecution of Christianity in Japan. And most research emphasized the remnants of Christian faith to understand the religion of Christians. So for example, looking at how the rituals like this changed from the beginning when Christianity was accepted in Japan, and also how maybe sacred objects and the perception of their sacred objects, how that changed. I argue also in my research that this preoccupation with the substance of their religion for years distracted researchers from seeing their lives beyond Christianity. So that is to say, focusing on substance in religion in this case means how the previously maybe very Christian practices became more and more different and non-Christian, or how less Christian they became. They became. But this approach and preoccupation with looking at their religion as such distracted researchers from seeing their lives beyond Christianity and exploring the function of Christianity for the community, ties within and between communities. In my research, I had an opportunity for interviewing and meeting descendants of the interviewing Kakure Christian and also descendants of hidden Christians, including others who are their neighbors or didn't belong to any of Christian communities. Also looking at their practices from maybe 2002, when there was not yet any talk about World Heritage, and later when before the heritization process starts. So as you know, hidden Christian communities and hidden Christian villages heritage became listed, especially from the Nagasaki and Amakusa region, became listed as World Heritage in 2018. So I observed the process that was happening and how people and on the rituals that became important in the process. One significant thing that I realized was during that time, especially when I would take part in activities that are not only Christian, but maybe Shinto or Buddhist and so on. So when I would take part in Kunchi festivals or Jangara festival in Hirado, I would have the opportunity to see how these descendants and formerly Christians, how they participate in these rituals of the larger community. And it really struck me how eagerly they are taking part in these rituals and how they relate to the other fellows or from their village who were even surprised to hear about their being Christian in the past. So people who were living in the same village, let's say, they wouldn't until very recently know that their fellows with whom they did take part in such rituals of the village, they weren't aware that they were Christian. So it's a kind of activity that the Christian did for the community, so that is taking part in all these rituals of the village. And often we hear emphasis on their doing so. The reason for them doing so is to hide their Christian identity, but we usually don't look at other side, which is their active participation in the activity in the community, which is to cherish their community. So the point, I think, should be made there. So to cherish their larger community that goes beyond their Christian community was just as important. It wasn't just to hide their Christian identity. So I think in that specific particular situation, we can see the clue to interreligious coexistence in today's pluralist society. I mentioned this before. The three options that Christians have in historically facing various anti-Christian measures was to be martyred, so not to apostatize and be killed, martyred, or to apostatize and stop the Christian practice, it's called apostasy, or third, to apostatize and continue Christian practices secretly. So these are the Senpuku Christian, the underground practice. And often it was emphasized that that was not to abandon their Christian faith and practice. So the very powerful element here is the faith as the reason for them not to abandon the Christian faith. However, to try to conclude from where I started in the activities that I mentioned before, I would say that this also is supported in the historical development, where we can see that in time when Christians were times before, little before the persecution of Christianity and these three choices that the Christians faced, there was growing significance of community life. And from the late 15th century, the primary social unit of religious practice shifted from kinship groups, such as families and clans, to regional communities, such as villages and towns. So collective religious practices became crucial for communal life, functioning to maintain and strengthen a community's integrity. So villages and towns became the basic unit of communal and political association, in which members shared labor, religious practice, water and other resources, and communal lands. So Christians concealed their faith in order to maintain the faith of their community, valuing the role of the Christian faith as being that of the family and the village. So community becomes the center of their choice why to continue Christian faith underground. And so we can see that Christianity became a powerful tool for these communities to cope with difficulties and in early modern period. So we must ask people how they perceive their sacred symbols that Durkheim I mentioned before to understand their religion. So we have to look at their sacred symbols like Maria Canon and Rosario and other, let's say, important symbols that Christian communities had. But it becomes very clear that this also should include other religions, and what was the meaning of and goal of their participation, of Christian participation in other religions such as Shinto and Buddhism, cherished in the village. These are some pictures of from the representation of Christian heritage in Nagasaki, and I can go into details with this, but it is important to notice that in the heritization process, this shift from churches as tangible heritage to intangible heritage of villages of Senpuku Christian is very significant for our understanding of Christian religion, of the hidden Christian religion. So if you remember the images of the Christians, such as crucifixion and rituals that are focused only on hidden Christian groups, you might be surprised how are hidden Christians presented today. So in heritage, in World Heritage, their significant legacy becomes part of cultural landscape. And in this cultural landscape, there are elements that are not only Christian but other important parts of their religious and non-religious profane life in the village. So by looking at hidden Christians through their cultural landscape, not only the formal religious rituals and beliefs that result in building churches and other monuments, like also this, but also the everyday occupations such as cultivating rice fields and using water, cutting trees, and cooperating in a multi-religious environment all become equally significant practices. And this has raised awareness of the significance of the existing landscape and its protection. These are pictures taken in Kasuga village on Hirado Island, which is part of World Heritage, and where you can still talk with former hidden Christians in local information center they built for such opportunities. So what I want to say is that Senpuku Christian, who were for a long time deemed as reminiscences of an alien religion, became appreciated as people who lived in coexistence within a multi-religious environment. And so not everything is as positive and perfect as it seems like always, as these cultural landscapes supposed to show how the hidden religion intertwined with economic, reproductive, and social life of the Christian village community. But they can't clearly show that. And how the hidden Christian community lived their ordinary lives as farmers and fishermen living in poor, secluded areas, or questions like what were their hardships and discriminations they faced. So these are questions that are not being answered in the heritage as we are facing now. So this avoiding of inter-community dialogue, also in discussing what Christian communities were and how they lived, is really preventing us to see more about community. So we look at the cultural landscape to understand the village as whole and Christians living as part of that bigger community. But clues for community cohesion and interreligious relationship are there, but we need to see them through community and better understanding of this community, of Christian community in history and today. So to conclude my talk today, is there a way to peaceful coexistence? So we can learn from the problems of religious coexistence, as I explained in the experience of the hidden Christians. But is this concealing one's true faith while pretending to be someone else? That's what that's about? No, I don't think so. I think it is about remaining committed to one's faith and community, but at the same time being open to other communities and their beliefs. So the relevance of community for education comes in different ways and can be studied in different contexts, especially in the case of minorities, studying minorities, where belonging to community has an important meaning because it provides mutual help and support to the members in the hardships towards the majority, and also it gives meaning to their existence in the world. So that's one approach. And in the contemporary society, we should take part in engaging with these communities and differences to realize that we belong to community and communities, and as a member we respect some common values, beliefs and practices, and today we might not be disbanded by those communities if we don't follow the rules, but there are beliefs and faith and values we cannot change, and they link us to communities we will always belong to. So in education, community and religion are important part, and learning about minorities in societies and opening our minds by engaging with different communities and religions is very important. Because when we become aware of our own values and beliefs, we can understand why are the different values and beliefs of other people important to them. So only then we'll be able to accept and respect values of each other and ourselves. These are the references. Thank you very much for your attention.